All right, everyone, welcome back to our Let's Play of Twilight Struggle. This was kind of off the cuff. I had no plans to do this, but I was playing the game, I was enjoying it. I finally said, hey, you know what? Let's talk about it. Might as well while I'm playing the game anyway. Now, we had, in our first video, we had gone through the headline phase, and we are now seeing some results. Now, these have already been played. When you load this up after saving a game, it kind of shows you the last two turns. Now, you may remember we played the Olympic Games card for our headline card. Oh, it's making us play it again. That's no fun. Actually, no. We are getting to play. Oh, interesting. There we go. Okay, you just had to click on it. Now, there we go. It's showing us we won this. Remember, 7-5. Okay, so the Soviets came to play at our Olympics. They lost, and we get 2 victory points. It'll float up there. Now, we're about to see a political coup. And that had happened right at the end of our turn last time, or right at the start of the Russian turn. So this is AR1. Now there will go up to each side will play an AR1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. There are 6 rounds, and so the first card comes out, and it is the China card worth 4 points. The AI, the Soviets, have decided to stage a coup in the Philippines. And when they did that, let me tell you how a coup works, okay? So I've been calling these points on the card, and we'll get into this China card at some point. It's the most powerful card in the game. It has some special rules about it. It's really the only card like that, so let's not let it confuse us at this moment. We'll get into it because we will eventually get this card. But anyway, it is worth 4 points. So it is, creme de la creme, one of the really important cards. The When you play this, now I've been calling these influence points, but more technically speaking, they're really operation points because they do not have to be used for influence. They can be used for a few different things. One is you can use them as influence points out on the board. You can place them places. They can also be used to stage a coup in a country if you wish to do that, and it is allowed by the rules, and we'll talk about that in a moment. You can also try to realign a country, and that's a little bit different than a coup. But let's talk about the coup. And oh, I will say this. When you pull a card up from your deck, if you hold down the left mouse button and pull it up here to the center of the screen, it will show you the different options of what you can do with that card. They will generally be space race, event, influence points, um, coup, or realignment. Did I already say coup? Well, if I did, I didn't mean to. Coup or realignment. There are kind of those things that you can do with every card, generally speaking. Okay. All right. So how does this coup work? Well, you look at a country that maybe you're not connected to yet, so you're not close enough to put influence points in it, but you really want to get into that country. Maybe it's a place you want to set up a base here of influence so you can go here, or you could even go up here with your next turn because at those times you now have influence here, and so you can start to influence the things around it. Maybe you want to do that. Maybe you just want to block the other player. So, as the Soviets looking at the board, they're like, well, gosh, we've got a lot of American influence here. Why don't we get in the middle of all that, right? That really starts to come down to your own strategy, which you want to do with the game. In this case, the Soviets have decided to play the card, so let's talk about how it works. They pull the card up, it'll say stage a coup. All right. Well, first things first, when they stage the coup, you take these 4 points, and because they're taking an offensive type action like that, those count as military operations. As soon as we click off on this, 4 of their hexes here will light up. They will be most of the way to the DEFCON level and therefore would not lose any victory points. Now, if they just ended up the round with with 4 and DEF CON stays at 5, which it will not. Spoiler alert, it's not going to stay up here at 5, 98% chance. Um, they will get 4 military ops points. They would only lose 1 victory point because it's just the difference between um, DEF CON, I should say, and how many military operation points they used. If they do another military operation that's worth 1 point, then they would get to 5 or 2 points. It stops at 5. You at least have to get to 5 if the DEF CON level is there. Now, most likely DEF CON will be down here, and so now they've already got enough. They don't really have to worry about doing military operations for the rest of the turn until we would click over into turn 2. Um, but we're early on in turn 1 here. We're just in round 1, and so now they will have already pretty much covered that. So okay, that's the first thing. It goes into military ops points. Now, how does the coup itself work? Well, all right. They have total operations of 5. Let's click on the card and figure out why. The card is worth 4, +1 operations value when all points are used in Asia. All right, well, it just so happens the Philippines is part of Asia, and so they get a +1. So their total operations points are 5. All right, so I was calling these influence points before. Let's call them what the game calls them, which is operations points. You do not have to use them for influence. Most of the time they are, but this is really more like an operation, right? So they have 5 points total from this card that they're using because they're doing it in Asia. All right, so let's look at the Philippines where they're targeting. How is this calculated? Well, all you do is take the stability level 2 and double it. So that's your coup defense. All right, coup defense is 4. Okay, interesting. You may say, what does that mean? Well, the lower the stability number, the easier it is to do a coup or a realignment. Realignment works much the same way as a coup. It's just not as severe, I guess. I mean, you can tell that realignment or coup. A realignment's kind of more like soft power, more, bribery or, giving them a missile defense system or something like that. It's more soft power, whereas a coup is actually overthrowing the government. So realignment works very much the same, but we'll get into that in a minute. For a coup, you just double the 2 here, makes it a 4. So the Philippines is ripe to target a coup. You'll see some of these other 2s and 1s around the board. That's really where you want to be looking to do the coups. Okay, so the coup defense is a 4. The game rolled a 5. All right. You may say, great, perfect. That's why there's a 5 there. No, it's not. What you do is you take your operational points here, 5, plus the die roll, 5. That equals 10. Okay. The coup defense is 4. So 5 plus 5 is 10, minus 4. The Soviets gain 6 points. And so wipe off our 1. You take away from the side that has more to begin with. If you don't have any, you don't just start counting up. You take off the 1 and add 5 to the Soviet side. So that's a grand total of 6, right? So it's the dice roll plus, the total operations. Now, usually this is going to be the same number as the card. So you really take the card number plus the dice roll. This just has a special +1 because it's being played in Asia. Nice find by the AI, right? Good job. But now they have this massive lead in the Philippines. Now, the good thing is, of course, the Philippines still, I mean, the stability number always stays the same. We can run a counter coup if we want to, and we would also have to beat a 4 and we would have a plus whatever we have on our card plus any bonuses. So we don't, it's not like we have to roll a 5 or something just because the coup defense is 4. It could be that we have buffs and bonuses over here. But that's essentially how coups work. Now let's click off there. It is now our turn. Turn 1, round 1. So they've played their card, and that's what a round really is. You're playing a card. That may be points, operational points. That may be an event. It may be both. It just depends what the card says. But now it's our turn. So the Soviets always go first. We go second in every round. And we'll hit continue. Now it's our turn. Now, what are we going to do? So we look up here at the basic situation. You see here the Soviets have actually they got all 5 military operation points. Remember when I said it was +1 for Asia? They got an extra military op point there, and you see it's all filled in red now. So they've met their requirement. Ours are all yellow, which means we have not. We need to turn these blue eventually, but we have 6 rounds to do that. So, there's no hurry, of course. Now, where are we going to go from here? What are you trying to do? How do you start the game? Now, this is the hardest part, and this is what took me a few hours to start to really get the hang of what kind of cards are you playing first? What kind of cards are you holding back, right? Since there are 6 rounds, we've got now this is face down. I talked about the China card. We'll get back to that. That is now in our hand, but we cannot play it until the next turn. But we will have it for turn 2. And then if we play it, the Soviets will have it for turn 3. The China card just goes back and forth, kind of simulating how during the Cold War, both sides tried to play China off each other. Anyway, back to the task at hand. The number one, kind of difficulty I had when I started playing was I just didn't know the flow of play. What comes first? What comes second? What comes last? What do you hold? What do you play? This, that, and the other. I've really started to get a feel for that, having lost some games to the AI of the kind of cards you're looking at. But if you think about it, we've got 6 rounds. We've got one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Now we may somehow get another card here or there, but really, you've got 7 cards to play this turn, or yes, I'm sorry, 7 cards to play this turn in 6 rounds. Now, also remember, and we'll get to it, if we have a card we really do not want the event to fire, we can play it for Space Race. And that will help us to some degree, but it also helps you get rid of bad cards. You can only do that once per turn. So in one of these rounds, we could play one of those, but we can only do it once. Now, there are special cards that affect the space race, but that doesn't count against you. It's just you playing cards. If you play one and say, hey, I want this to go space race, that's that. You can only do it once in a turn, but then that resets every turn. Okay, so we have some Soviet cards. I mean, generally, you're not going to want to play your Soviet cards until you kind of have to. Um, Now, I say that you can get rid of them early, so you're not sitting. It's almost like a game of Uno, right, or something like that. If you have a bad card, sometimes it's best to just throw it out there, get it over with, and then continue on with your plan. But I've found that it's kind of best to wait and instead play really high neutral cards um, or play American cards off the bat and use the influence points because you want to start spreading yourself around the board here because the AI is very good at getting spread out and causing you difficulties all over the map, right? Ultimately, we're going to be fighting over all of these regions, and you have a lot of countries. In every region, you've got, like here's Central America, you've got 3 battlegrounds. Down in South America, what do you have? 2 or 3 battlegrounds. Let's go down there. Oh, you have 4, right, right. You have Venezuela, Brazil, Chile, Argentina, Africa. You have 3 or 4 as well. And so, you're going to be battling over these, and you got to kind of look at these numbers. Africa actually has 5. Algeria is only a 2, and it's connected to us. I mean, that's a good place for us to go, right? Nigeria is hard to get to because neither one, neither us nor the Soviets have anything close to this. We would have to draw some card that said you can place 4 things in Africa wherever you want. You know what I mean? And there are cards like that, but you just kind of always got to think about what am I close to? What can I influence from where I am? I can tell you the Middle East, as is probably very historically accurate, is just a killing zone out here for influence points. So, anyway, how do we play this? Let's look at our best card. We've got a 4 here. All further ops cards played by your opponent this turn are -1 to their value, to a minimum of one op. Okay, what does this mean? Well, every time the Soviets play a card that's a 3 or a 2 or a 4, you lop 1 point off of that. So they have less points, less operation points when they want to do something with that. That's pretty powerful. But I'll tell you right up at the start, um, I would rather have these 4 points that I can go put on the board where I want to and start to kind of build my strategy. Now, maybe a more advanced player will watch this and say, nope, you always want to use the Red Scare Purge to hurt the Soviets. But I just think in the first go around here, I'd like those points to go do something with them. Now, let's talk about a different kind of strategy. Let's say that you're like, you know what? I'm not even going to contest them for Eastern Europe. I'm not going to try to go to Poland or East Germany and try to do anything with that. Instead, I'm going to try to take Italy and France and build my European strategy that way. You could go ahead and play this and say, I just want the points. All right, it's a Soviet card, so you then say, do I want the event to happen first, or do I want the points to be allocated first? Let's say that you said, let's just have the event happen. The USSR gets five, and that's probably what they would pick, five influence in Eastern Europe. They could spread those around to the countries in Eastern Europe, no more than two per country. And that's fine. And then we get 3 points, and we could go put those in the Middle East. We could put those in Africa, just depending on what we touch and what we're close to. And we may just say, okay, that's fine. You can have Eastern Europe, and we'll give you those 5 points. And we've got three of our own, and we, went and did those in Asia. Okay, so you could do that as well. Then you have cards like Defectors. We could have played this in the headline phase to cancel the USSR headline event, including a scoring card, which we have not seen yet, but can be played. It's a playable part of the deck, and that's what I think really, in some ways, makes this game so much fun and so unique that the scores are tabulated when somebody plays a scoring card. And these scoring cards can be scoring card Europe, scoring card Asia, scoring card Middle East, Africa, Central America, South America. You get the idea. Every region has a scoring card that may end up in your hand, and you can play it like a regular card. And when it gets played, you go and tally up the points in that area, and the game, doles out victory points. Now, that's not like the end of the round. It's not even the end of the turn. It's you just score. It's you don't find many games like that, right? We always think of games as being like, well, like a basketball game. It's got a certain amount of time and then the game's over and you look at the score. The score adds up and then whoever has the most at the end wins. Well, in this game, you can play scoring cards whenever you want. Um, with a few limitations. But anyway, we'll get to that when it pops up here. You've got 5-year plan. This would cause the Russians to, or the Soviets to randomly discard a card. Okay. Um, that's not a bad card. Actually, this isn't a bad card to play right now. 3 points. It gives us three instead of four. We'll still think about this one. I will tell you, if you're going to play this, you'd want to play it early on because if you're going to -1 the Soviets, you would want to do it starting immediately, really, right? We would want to -1 everything that they're going to do the rest of this turn. It's going to last all 6 rounds. Um, but anyway, we're going to play this. So as you see, we can either click on it and it shows us. We can play the event, which means this happens. We can place the influence, because this is our card, right? We can place the influence, so these points, that's how you go allocate the points. We could try to realign a country. We could try a coup attempt, or we could put it to space race. Alternatively, you can pull it like this and it gives you these nice little graphics that say the exact same thing. So let's go place influence with the 5-year plan. We get 3. All right. Now we have to say, okay, where can we play these? Generally, it flashes where you can play them. I feel like we're in decent shape in Europe. We've got control of France and Italy, so we're tied 2-2 there. They're about to get Yugoslavia, but that's not a battleground, so it's not a huge deal. We've got our own non-battleground in the UK, so I mean we're kind of even with them a little bit up here in Europe. Now, I would probably like to go get Finland. Why? Because Finland's right next to the Soviet Union, and you get some bonuses for controlling a country right next to the superpower, just like the Soviets would get one for Canada or Mexico, or unfortunately, Cuba. Cuba becomes a real thorn in your side. But let's go look to the Middle East and Asia. I'd like to kind of build through here. So I'm going to put one in Iran. That gives us control of Iran. Now, a problem with Iran is it's an easy coup target because it's a two. I find so far that fours are very hard for a realignment or a coup to take place. Threes are still pretty hard, honestly, and twos and ones, you gotta watch out because you can be spending a lot of points here, and then the Soviets can just come, do a coup, and poof, they're off. Now, it's possible for the Soviet coup to be successful, but they only strip away 1 point from you. So their die roll plus their operations points only beats the coup defense by 1 point, and so you would just have a one here. All right. So anyway, we have two more. You can always look up here. You have two more influence to play. Why don't we do those in Pakistan? And we're allowed to do that because we started this time, this round, with points already in Iran. Now we added one, but that's not why we could do this. We could do it because we already had a point in Iran when the round started. Otherwise, we could not put points in Pakistan yet. Just like right now, we could not go put this point. Let's try to put it in India. We can't do it. Why? Because we just placed this here. We'll have to wait till the next round, round two, of turn one before we can start putting any points in India if that's what we choose to do. So let's go ahead and put a point in Pakistan. Now we control Pakistan and off goes that card. Now it's not totally removed from the game because it doesn't have an asterisk. It's in what's called the discard pile. I like to call this the recycle pile because these cards will come back around. You will see them again. Removed means removed. It's gone. And this is where all the asterisk cards will be. Okay. Now we have to confirm. Always remember if even after we place those and you're thinking, "Oh, well, what's going on? What's holding me up?" I played my points, my influence points. Um, it's because you could always back out of it if you wanted to until you hit the commit button. And that's commit. Let's hit it. Now we're in turn one, round two, and it's the Soviets' turn. Now let's see what they're going to do. You'll see the AI start to count down here. I know that this may drive some people mad and say, just make the AI go. But I kind of like the little bit of a pause for a moment. It's only about 10 to 12 seconds, I think. Suez Crisis, remove a total of 4 influence, but nope, that's not what they're doing. They're using the points to run a coup. And this is exactly what I was just talking about in Pakistan. So what happened here? Let's look at their Suez Crisis card. It's an asterisk card, so they can only play it once in the game, and they have decided to play it now. Now, they could have said, let's do this event. Remove a total of 4 U.S. influence from France, United Kingdom, and Israel. But you can remove no more than 2 per country. Okay? Well, that would have hurt us quite a bit because they could have gotten rid of our control of France, United Kingdom, and really beaten us down in Israel. But they said, oh no, that's not what we want to do. We want the points, and this is our card. So we're going to use those 3 points and we're going to run a coup in Pakistan. Why is that? Well, Pakistan is incredibly important on the board just where it's stationed. And so you will be fighting over Pakistan and India and Iran over and over again. So at the start here, they played a card worth 3, so their operation points were 3. They rolled a 3, so 6, right? Our coup defense was the 2, times 2, our coup defense was the 4. So they had 6, our coup defense was 4. They get a plus 2, all right? And that plus 2 means they uh, take this positive 2 that we have, it's gone, and now nobody has anything there. When you do a coup, the first thing you do is you remove the other player's points and then you add yours. Well, they had 2 more than us, and so they get to remove our 2 points, and it's gone. Um, that also, every time that you do a coup in a battleground country, it degrades the DEF CON. And so when we click on this, that will happen. Now you see down here, military ops. Remember, they already had enough. They already had 5, so that really does them no good. That comes from this number here. Military ops 3, doesn't matter. They already had 5. So let's click on this. You'll see the DEF CON level has clicked down to 4. Now, as a strategic and tactical thing, sometimes you want the DEF CON level to go down because it causes the rule to kick in that you cannot run a coup in certain parts of the world. So at part 4, you see this little, what it appears to be an atomic bomb going off. Now that the DEF CON level is 4, there can be no more coups or realignment rolls in Europe. All right. Um, you can still do it in Asia, you can still do it in Africa, South and Central America, just not in Europe. When it goes down to 3, you'll no longer be able to do it in Asia, but you'll always see this little atomic bomb underneath the region here that will tell you, hey, you can't do that here. All right. The game wouldn't allow you anyway. It'll tell you you can't do this, but just so you know where that's coming from. So let's hit continue. Now it's our turn. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's our action round in turn 1. So it's our action round number 2. There are 5 rounds remaining. We have 0 military op points. We have not done any military operations. And here you can see we need to get up to 4 as it stands right now because we're on DEF CON 4. Okay, let's hit continue. We're on remove. If you ever get here and say, hey, what's going on? Get over to player hand. There we go. Now we could place 4 down, which would be an interesting play. We could also, try to hurt the Soviets, uh, but I think we're going to play these 4 points. I like that idea right now. Um, I think we're going to play these 4. We're probably going to play the Warsaw Pact and just let the Soviets have the Eastern Europe. Um, we're going to try to get rid of Arab Israeli by either space race or otherwise, or de Gaulle leaves France. That is just a terrible card for you. Um, so anyway, let's do the Red Scare Purge and let's put that in influence. Okay, now we get to spend those points because we decided to do influence. Now let's go back here and do Pakistan again. Let's take that back. So we've kind of negated what the Soviets did last time. And then let's look out here in the Middle East a little more. Where else could we kind of start operating in the Middle East? Lebanon's interesting. We could add to Israel. Now we have 2 more left. We could also come down here and take control of Egypt if we wanted to. I kind of like that idea. Uh, Always a hotly contested part of the map. Let's go ahead and take control of Egypt. And now we've got 2 battlegrounds in the Middle East, and we've got one in Asia. We're looking, really strong. This is where the game starts to get waged a lot before people start branching out to some of the other places. So let's confirm that move. And now it's the Soviets' turn. This is round 3 of turn 1, and let's see what they've got in store for us. There's really no good place for us to run a coup against them right now. Um, All right, they played one of our cards, an opponent event, and they're going to try another coup. Now, see, now it shows you where they're trying the coup. They did it in Pakistan again. Formosan resolution. What is this? Taiwan shall be treated as a battleground country. Okay, when we click on this, this will turn red here. Okay, this is thought, I'm just, this isn't the game saying this, I'm saying this. This is thought to be pro-American because you have a better line on Taiwan here. They have, the Soviets have to go through Japan and then down to Taiwan or through Korea to Taiwan. So this is considered a real advantage for you because you could possibly take Taiwan. And if it's a battleground, that's good, right? We get more points for battlegrounds. Um, Okay, fine. So, we cannot play the China card. It's here face down, so they could play it. It is worth 2 operations points. Pakistan is a 2, so its coup defense was a 4. All right. They rolled a 5, so 5 plus 2 is 7. 7 to 4, they get 3 points, 3 operations points. They wipe out R2. Now they have a positive 1. They also got even more military ops. I mean, they've got a ton of military ops. That is for sure. All right, so on we go. Now, I kind of find this is a very general rule, so don't take this to the bank, and I am not 100% an expert on this game at this point. I'm still learning as I'm going, but quickly, I hope. But I find that if you're running a coup attempt, if you kind of look at the number here, 2, you would, you know, you would at least want a 2 to run it in a 2 country, all right? You would want at least a 3, but ideally a 4 to run it in a 3 or 4 country. When I say 3 or 4, I'm talking about the stability, okay? That's just kind of a general rule that I'm seeing as I play the game. Um, Now let's see what we want to do next. I think we're not in terrible shape yet. I'm really upset that they took Pakistan there. Why don't we run our own coup? Now we could run it with a Soviet card. We do not have control of Israel, so this is not a great card unless we have control of Israel, and that gives us a bonus to winning this war. We could play the Warsaw Pact formed, let them control Eastern Europe. That's fine. They're probably going to anyway. We could use defectors and try to run our own coup where we have 2 points. What's independent Reds? Add sufficient U.S. influence to either Yugoslavia, Romania, Bulgaria, or Hungary. Blah blah blah. We could use that. We could, you know, question whether, let's hit continue really fast. Question whether that helps us because we could get even in Yugoslavia or Bulgaria. That's what this card's saying, essentially, is down here in this area, Yugoslavia, Romania, Bulgaria, Hungary, or Czechoslovakia. You can play this card and get the number of points that the Soviets already have there. I don't know that that's really really makes a big difference. I think I'm going to use this and we're going to try our own coup attempt. Now, can we do it? No. All right. We cannot now run a coup in Pakistan. Why is that? Because when the Soviets did theirs, it took us down to a DEFCON 3. At DEFCON 3, you can no longer run coups or realignments in Asia. Now, we already knew we couldn't do it in Europe. Now we can no longer do it in Asia. We could still do it in the Middle East if we wanted to, but instead, we don't really have a great place to play a coup card. I am either going to use the points there, or I think what I'm really going to do here is go get some victory points. And these are some pretty easy ones. So I am going to pick up this card. Whoops. Let's actually get out of that. And let's get out of that. There we go. Okay. De Gaulle leads France. And let's pull this up here. This is an absolutely terrible card for us. It removes 2 US influence in France and adds 1 USSR influence. It also cancels the effects of NATO. There's a NATO card that gives us like 4 points, or well, it gives us 7 points all over Western Europe, a lot that we can spend in France. So this is a terrible card for us. It's a 3 Soviet card, so that in and of itself tells you it's bad. We're going to discard this thing and get rid of it. And when I say get rid of it, it will go into the recycle pile. but the event does not happen this turn anyway. We may have to deal with it again in the future. It's just going to go into the recycle because the event is not going to fire. We're going to put it in space race. Now, when you do this, as I said, this goes into the recycle pile, and now we have to make a roll. And this roll has to be 1 through 3. And if that happens, if we get a 1 through a 3, we advance in the space race. We get 2 victory points for being the first one there. Okay. We had to do this with a card that was at least 2 operational points. Well, we satisfy that. So let's give it a roll. We failed. Well, crap. So we rolled a 4. We needed to roll a 1 through a 3. Now that would have worked if we were over here, but we weren't. We rolled a 4. We failed. Well, shoot. That's all right, though. We got rid of this really crappy card, at least for this turn. Now it's the Soviets' turn 1, round 4. They need no military ops points. We do. We're going to have to run a coup or a realignment of some sort because we don't have any we haven't done any military ops points here. We've got 3. We've got to get to 3 here. Truman Doctrine. So they're playing one of our cards, an opponent event. What are they going to do with this 1? So it came down here, it told us it's an opponent card. Now it'll pop up here when it makes its decision. Oh, it has made its decision. It's going to allow us to play first. Remove all USSR influence markers in one uncontrolled country in Europe. Okay, well, there aren't too many. Yugoslavia and Bulgaria are our only options. Those are the only countries in Europe that have Soviet chits here uh, that aren't controlled. They control Germany, they control Poland, we control, these. So I think we can do up to 3. We just took 2. Oh, we could do it in any country. Okay, cool. That's good. We got it out of Yugoslavia. Fine. Yugoslavia can be important. Um, so that's good. Okay, that's out of Europe. Good. Now they let us go first, right? And so when they picked the event to happen, they then picked to let us do the event before they spent the points, right? They're playing our card, so both things happen. They're going to try a realignment in Egypt. Great, that's perfect for my purposes here. They tried a realignment. You see here, there's a +1. We get a +1 because we have more influence in the country. All right. And that's how realignments work. Essentially, they then would have to beat us. So, since we have more influence in the country, we get a +1. They would have had to beat us by more than 1 to affect 1 point of this. Okay. Realignments are a little more confusing than coups, but what it basically comes down to is they're trying to peel away one of these points. For every point on the card, they get to do a realignment roll up to, 4 or 5 here. Well, since only 1 was on the card, they tried it once. We have more influence in the country, so we get a +1, and their dice roll failed. So there's no change, all right? And that's realignment. So now it's our round in turn 1, round 4. We've really got to start thinking about these military operation points and what we're going to do with those, how we're going to spend them. We're in really good shape actually right now, and there aren't good places to run coups. You say, what? Yeah, I mean we're having there aren't great places to run coups. We could try one here in North Korea, and we may have to here eventually. But first, not that one. Probably not that one. I'd like to hold on to that to be my highlight card next time. As you can see, I say highlight, headline. It tells you right in the top here, headline phase. It's good for that. I might like that next time. I think that I'm going to let them form the Warsaw Pact, and I'm going to attempt a coup. Okay, fine. Now I get to pick Who goes first and who goes second? Um, let's do our coup. Oh, shoot. Sorry, that was my bad. We cannot do a coup in Asia. That's why the game is has had locked up there. I forgot. Well, shoot in heaven. There's no place for us to even do coups out here. The Soviets have played this so that, I mean, there we cannot do one in Pakistan. We can't do one in North Korea. We can't do it in the Philippines because the DEFCON level's too low. Smart. This game is smart, I'm telling you. Let's do this and let's play it for the influence. All right, so we get 2 points. Where would we like to spend these? Now, we've got this problem here. I kind of wouldn't mind getting a hold of Korea or going back up here to Pakistan. We could also start building out here in the Middle East to Libya, but I think I'm going to go up here to South Korea. And now we control something in Asia. Before this, we controlled Australia, but it's not a battleground. Now we control one of the battlegrounds, South Korea, in Asia. So now the Soviets' turn comes. Hopefully they play someplace where I can actually do a coup. I it's very interesting. I've never seen the AI do this before. They're kind of almost freezing me out from my military ops being worth a damn. They're using this for influence, so they're playing one of their own cards. They get to play 1 point. Okay, cool. Um, let's see something here. If I pull this up, this is just not a situation I've been in before. Am I allowed to run a coup in a country that has no... Yeah, I didn't think so because I'm allowed to run a coup in Africa. By the way, you do not have to have influence close. You don't have to have, anything else going on to run a coup or a realignment someplace. You can be anywhere on the board, assuming the game will allow it. Yeah, no, I can't. I could not run a coup there even if I wanted to. Interesting. Wow, that's really brilliant. How that the game did that. Um, now we're going to need three if the opportunity presents itself. So interesting. Okay, let's play defectors. We'll play influence with those so we can spin the points. And if the game wants to play this way, I guess we'll just say fine. Go ahead. I may start building in Israel here a little bit. Actually, no. I want to take away their influence in Pakistan. Now, I'm going to pull this back and tell you something that I'm not sure I've told you yet in this game. It's very important. When you play influence points into a country, the other side controls, you get half the points. And so when I played that two card, it was the defectors card. I should have had two influence points, right? To put right in there, and it should be 2-2. No, because they control Pakistan. I only get one influence point. It costs me double. So essentially, it costs you 2 points to put 1 point in there. Always keep that in mind. It's very important. Now, what about Afghanistan? That's kind of an interesting play, right? Then we're right on their doorstep. Why don't we try that? Let's see how they like that. Now we're touching it with Iran, so it should have no problem. The Soviets do not control it, so we can play both points. I like that. All right, so now we're right on the USSR doorstep. This is the sixth and final round. Now, I will tell you, if you have scoring point or scoring cards in your hand, you have got to play them. If you have any left, and when I say you've got to play them, you've got to play them by the end of the turn. So any of the 6 rounds. If you do not, you automatically lose the game. So we'll see if the Soviets had any scoring cards because they have not played one yet. And if they have one, they have to play it this time or they automatically lose. And there we go. It's Asian scoring. And now this is perfect. This will give us a very nice overview. As you can see, Asia scoring, we tied 5-5, and let's talk about why that is. Presence, 3 and 3. Presence, 3. What is this saying? If you have a presence in Asia at all, and what is a presence? Presence means you control one country. All you have to do, a minimum of one country you control, you get 3 points for having a presence there. You would get 7 points for domination. What's domination? That means that you have as many non-battleground countries and you have more battleground countries than the other side. Okay? So that would give you um, well, it's the total. When you add up the total here, it would give you domination. So if they have more and they have more that's what it is. If they have more total countries and more battleground countries, they get domination. They would have gotten 7 points. Now we actually got a little lucky there that we did that in South Korea because what ended up happening is we control two non-battlegrounds countries, right? Now that gives us no bonus, and we'll get down here, +1 per controlled battleground. Okay. Um, but non-battleground give you no bonus. Okay, so 0 and 0. We control two though, and they control one. Fine. But they control two battlegrounds, so they got, +1 and +1. We control one, South Korea, one, but we control the same number of countries, so they do not dominate Asia. If they had one more non-battleground country, they actually would have domination. They would have gotten 7 extra points. All right. Control means you have more countries and you have all of the battleground countries. So every battleground country you control, you get 9 points for that. As I said, you get +1 bonuses for every battleground, um, and you get +1 for every country that is controlled adjacent to an enemy superpower. And that's why it was important to get Afghanistan. We are adjacent to the Soviets. We get a +1. When you add all this up, it's 5 and 5. We actually got pretty fortunate there, if I'm being honest. We got Korea just this last time, and then I said, hey, it might be good to get Afghanistan. This is why. 5 and 5, victory points up here do not change. Awesome. Now it's our round six. This will be it for this turn. This will end the turn. If we had a scoring card here, we would have to play it just like the Soviets just did, but we do not. And so we're going to hit continue. It would be very nice if we could run a coup somewhere, but it does not look like we can. There's just no place where we're allowed to, so we cannot do it in Europe. Um, we cannot do it in Asia. You'll see the special things for Formosan resolution, DEFCON restriction, no coups or realignments. Scoring card has been played. Okay, so you'll see that under the region. There's nothing for us to do but play points, which is it's too bad. It's gonna cost us 3 victory points. We'll end up the turn behind somehow, but that's probably what's gonna happen. Um, we don't want to trigger the event. First of all, we probably want to play the points. We could trigger the event, but it's a Soviet card. Both things are going to happen either way. It's just a matter of in which order you want them to happen. So we have 3 influence from 3 on the card. I say that we really start to punish them for some of this nonsense where we can't get a coup in. Let's go ahead and play all 3 of these in Israel. Now, that is very strong stuff because Israel, of course, is a major battleground. That gives us a much stronger position here in the Middle East. We will confirm. Okay. Now they get to play their Warsaw Pact stuff, right? Because it was their card. So the event fired. And now you see here, end of turn DEFCON level was 3. Okay. Current mill ops level. So remember, the Soviets played all of those. We played none. Our level is 0. We lose 3 victory points. When we click continue, we are now behind, and the Soviets are +1. Now we move on to turn 2. Okay, and there will also be 6 action rounds here, a headline round, and then 6 action rounds. Now you keep whatever is in your hand, and if you were left with the China card that was face down, you turn it over. It's now playable again. The minute we play it, we'll give it to the Soviets, and they'll turn it face down. And that card is the only one. It just goes back and forth the whole game. All right. And with that, I'm going to say that's the end of episode number 2. We're hanging in there. We're only down by a point, but gosh darn, this AI is good. The way that it thought about not, thought, quote unquote, about not allowing us to uh, get a coup in there so that it would end up with more victory points than us in a turn that we really dominated, quite honestly. That was brilliant. Anyway, this has been an absolute blast. I love this game. If you guys like it, then give me a like, give me a comment. Let me know that you like this content, and I'm happy to keep playing this game. Believe me, as much as you want me to. I may end up just only making these two as kind of a tutorial for someone that wants to get in the game. We shall see. It all just kind of depends on what you guys like. So if you do like this content, make sure and hit the thumbs up and let me know. So anyway, for Strategy Gaming Dojo, it's been a lot of fun. I'll talk to you next time.